Didn't jonjones block you?
Mm-hmm. I don't think he likes me.
What did you do?
Well, I guess it's just I've made a few videos just dissecting his case and giving my opinion on what I think he did, and he just doesn't like it, obviously, because it's just bringing up shit that is in his past that he doesn't want dug up, I guess.
This is the stuff about the drug testing.
Yeah, because there was that whole debacle with the the pulsing and the turinabol metabolite and what.
Yeah. What's your take on that?
Personally, I think that if you go back historically to the beginning, like obviously the guy is pretty loose on what he's willing to do in terms of,
substances.
Yeah. So with him, if you go back to his first positive test results, I believe he tested positive for clomiphene and letrozole way back in like 2016 or something. So if you look at those two drugs, one of them is an aromatase inhibitor that you would use to prevent gyno formation usually. And then Clomid is like a fertility drug you would use to restore testosterone production, or in women, you use it to aid in fertility. So using those two drugs back then, to me, seemed like something you would be doing to either, prevent the gyno from what you were using at a time when it was less scrutinous, perhaps, and then the Clomid, to recover, or something was tainted is what his claim was. But we already have, history of him doing this or getting popped for something pretty stupid to get popped for way back in 2015, 2016 era approximately. After that, he tests positive for turinabol, and then thereafter the pulsing. But the thing that's interesting about that is when Nowitzki talks about this pulsing M3 metabolite, he refers to, well, it's not him, he's just reiterating the research, and it's ultimately they use this reference point of Clomid pulsing as a kind of a proxy to exemplify, look, here's a drug that stores itself in fat tissue and pulses over time. So they use Clomid as an example of because they can't just give a human a shit ton of turinabol and like try and figure out if this is going to work or not. So they give them this fertility drug, or they've looked in the data and parsed out this information about Clomid pulsing, and they use that as a reference point for like, look, there's a drug that can pulse over time. But the interesting thing is jonjones literally popped for Clomid before, but he's never had that pulse. So he has this turinabol that keeps pulsing, but the Clomid they use as the reference point of a drug that can pulse never pulsed for him.
But didn't he say that the Clomid was from tainted food?
Yeah, but he still got it in his system. So it's like, if you ingested Clomid, why is that not pulsing?
What causes something to pulse? Well, explain pulsing to people that don't know what we're talking about.
Like the idea would be that metabolites of these hormones, like first of all with turinabol, after Icarus came out and like shortly around that, the Rodchenkov is the one who came up with the M3 metabolite test and like extended the detection window of turinabol. And that's actually when I mentioned the Summer Olympics and how many people retroactively got their medals stripped or they got popped for the Summer Olympics for like 12 years in totality. A lot of those positive test results were for turinabol after they used Rodchenkov's data to like retroactively test the urine samples and see. They thought at the time it was undetectable because they got it out of their system based on the current detection windows. But then when Rodchenkov came out with his data, and when they went back and tested it using his assay, you could figure out, past that date, they actually detected for that, the longer term metabolites. So the idea behind the pulsing is these metabolites that linger, they can store themselves in like fat tissue essentially, and they can like liberate themselves over time sporadically.
Has that been proven or is that theoretical?
Yeah, and it was proven in Clomid data, which is interesting because jonjones literally is popped for Clomid.
But didn't pulse for that.
Yeah. So.
But it hasn't been proven before with this stuff?
No, with turinabol, never.
So what's your take on that?
Like, I think personally, like the amount of turinabol he had was so small. A lot of times, like for certain compounds like turinabol, the only way you're going to get it is like underground. Like you're going to get it. It's not a pharmaceutical product that's designed for like a clinical application. So you're going to get it designed by an underground lab who sells steroids to, random bodybuilders or a chemist in, China or something. And you're kind of just banking on the fact that it's not going to be tainted. They're going to use like clean equipment. It's going to be whatever drug you're hoping to get. And there are a lot of different scenarios that might, explain it. And there's different theories like I could have that could hypothetically, either one could be true potentially. But I think one of the options is a drug he thought he was getting that was potentially undetectable was tainted with turinabol. Or he thought he could get around the detection window by taking it. unaware of Rodchenkov's long-term data that came out, or there's like a variety of different things that could be happening. But ultimately for him, he got it in his system, and on paper, when you look at his testosterone levels and his ratios of testosterone to epitestosterone, like when he fought DC, they were so out of whack that it would not be explainable, in my opinion, by anything other than some sort of suppression of your system via the usage of something. So to me,
not hard training, because hard training does suppress it, right?
yeah, but to the degree where he's literally like a female, probably not. So he
Really? It was that bad?
Yeah, so normally the levels would be over 10 times what he had in general. I'd have to pull it up to remember exactly, but he was like in the single digits for urinary testosterone, which otherwise should be like, it was like 60 plus or something. He was like 4 or something. And it was multiple data points of his testosterone being single digits to a point that would indicate significant suppression, in my opinion.
What could be another possible explanation for it, other than significant suppression?
Of the super low test
Yeah.
levels? I don't know, castration.
Really? Is that bad?
Yeah, it was pretty fucking bad, dude. It was like the equivalent of you only have your adrenal glands producing testosterone, basically. Like your balls are essentially non-functional.
But explain this then.